A Short History of Nearly Everything. Book written by Bryson. This book is written about nearly everything, so try and stay with me. Part 5. Life Itself. Chapter 16. Lonely Planet. If you were to sit at the bottom of the ocean, with no protection, you would be crushed by the immense pressure. So I advise against doing that. The bend sounds like a pretty cool name, but it's really not great. It's when nitrogen fizzes in the blood from ascending too quickly, so it could actually kill you. Earth is great, it's fantastic. It's the perfect distance away from the sun, it's got the right kind of resources we need like water and dry land and food, and we're a twin planet, and the timing, like we could not have asked for a better planet. I just love Earth so much. Venus is not a great planet. I don't like Venus. It's too close to the sun, so if we ever tried to live there, we would shrivel up and turn to ash and die. That would be bad. If I could go shopping for a planet, I would choose a planet that had fresh water, land, an atmosphere, protection from radiation, the right distance from the sun, lots of oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, and carbon, reasonable climate, protection from meteorites or meteors, a stable sun, and rich soil so I can grow my food. Chapter 17. Into the Troposphere. Have you ever wondered why it's a good thing we have an atmosphere? It's good because it keeps us warm and protects us from harmful things that can come through space, such as UV light. The danger of living at higher altitudes is the lower pressure and extremely low temperatures, and plus the thickening of red blood cells. The atmosphere has layers. It has a troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, and ionosphere. It gets colder as you climb a mountain, because the higher you get, the lower the pressure, and the more the air expands. Thermohaline circulation is a large-scale ocean circulation that is driven by global gradients. Life used to keep the world spinning, but humans kind of messed that up. We take and take, but we never give back to the world, so the balance has been tipped. Chapter 18. The Bounding Main. Water is a pretty cool substance. It has no taste or smell, and it's a sign of life on other planets. Don't drink seawater. The salt in the water can cause extreme dehydration, so if you're thirsty, stick to regular water. Most of the world's water is in the ocean. Like I said in one of my previous videos, we know a lot more about outer space than we do about our own oceans. Most sea life stays towards the top and the more shallow areas of the ocean, because in the bottom, not enough light or warmth reaches it. Chapter 19. The Rise of Life. Miller's experiment involved the combination of water with a mixture of methane, ammonia, and hydrogen to create organic compounds. This connects with Earth's water mixing with the atmosphere to create organic compounds on Earth. Proteins are what you get when you string amino acids together. It's hard to make them because some proteins require 1,000 amino acids to arrange in a very precise order. What is life? Life is any chemical reaction between molecules to make up an organic compound is considered life. When did life on Earth start? Earth's surface didn't become solid until about 3.9 billion years ago, but the germs of life might have been brought to Earth by a meteorite. We can study early life by looking at fossil formations, which give us a window into the past. Complex life started 1.5 billion years ago, but mine started when I started high school. Chapter 20. Small World. Bacteria is all around us. Some bacteria is good, and some bacteria is bad. Bacteria is tiny. It's microscopic, so you can't look at your hand and see all the bacteria on it. Fungi can come in the form of mushrooms, molds, mildew, yeast, and puffballs. They are decomposers of waste and dead organisms. Humans have come to use fungi as yeast because they discovered many uses to fungi, other than them just being decomposers. In 1969, all living organisms were classified into 5 kingdoms. They are Animalia, Plantae, Fungi, Protista, and Monera. A virus is an infective agent that typically consists of a nucleic acid molecule and a protein coat. It's too small to be seen by the naked eye, and is able to multiply only within the living cells of a host. They reproduce and they have DNA or RNA. They do not produce their own proteins. Some diseases we are dealing with right now include smallpox, rabies, yellow fever, Ebola, polio, and the human immunodeficiency virus, the source of AIDS. Even though it can only be transferred from bird to human, many are worried that it will be able to change and be able for it to spread from human to human, resulting in a much more pandemic result. Chapter 21. Life Goes On. 3 requirements to making a proper fossil is to die in the proper place, buried in the specific sediments. The fossil must be able to maintain the identical shape, and finally, it must be found in a recognized and something that is worth keeping. 95% of fossils are marine animals. The hypothesis has been put forward that there were a whole bunch of animals instead of the one stated in the sudden complex life in the Burgess Shale. Chapter 22. Goodbye to all that. Lichens are a partnership between fungi and algae because fungi dissolve surface rock and algae converts food. It takes them more than half a century to become the size of a shirt button. The first land-dwelling animals were the millipede from Scotland. Animals seem to be a lot larger during the Devonian and Carboniferous periods, because there was likely a lot more oxygen then. Insects were the first to develop flight. The largest extinction was the Permian extinction about 245 million years ago. It killed at least 95% of the known species on record. Chapter 23. The Richness of Being. It's not uncommon for biologists or scientists to change name of organisms. The changes are necessary because we may label the species as a part of an animal kingdom when they're actually a part of a different one. This is upsetting to a point because if this changes, many books can get outdated. It's difficult to get a handle on exactly how many species exist on Earth today. That's because for every 100 we know, 99 of them are pretty vague in descriptions. Chapter 24. Cells. Cells are really small because they're constantly dividing or splitting, so they could never really get that big. Robert Hooke was the first to describe and name a cell. Robert Hooke called them cells because they reminded him of monk cells. Cells are capable of reproducing themselves by cell division. Sometimes, when the rate of cell division becomes too rapid, it becomes cancer, which means the cells reproduce too much and can go out of control. Chapter 25. Darwin's Singular Notion. Most of the scientists from the 20th century were from a wealthy background because they had the advantage of a proper education as they were from wealthy upbringings. Before the 20th century, most people had private education, which they could only afford if they had a rich family. Darwin believed in natural selection. Natural selection is the means by which some species prospered while others failed. It caused evolutionary change because during the times when there were strong genes, it could help a species survive because the ones that survived could reproduce, meaning the more dominant gene would show. Chapter 26. The Stuff of Life. Mendel knew that some sort of packets of hereditary information was passed from one generation to the next. Pretty much it was just genes that are found in blood and the bloodstream and reproductive organs that are then passed down from generation to generation. The fruit flies proved to be so important for much of our understanding of genetics because they have white eyes because their ancestors passed that gene on to them. It's important that DNA has the ability to replicate itself because it allows the creature to reproduce. Mistakes are important because it causes some animals to gain an advantage over the rest of the species. This advantage helps them to live longer and they can reproduce, spreading their advantage and thus adding to the traits of a species. Human Genome Project is the number of genes humans have. Humans have 35,000 to 40,000 genes, while much simpler animals have way more genes to us. So, we're pretty basic. Well, that's the end of this one. If you want to see more of my videos, visit my YouTube channel, or click the links down in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.